Hey, soil mates. Welcome to Men Metal Mayhem, the podcast where the brothers men take a deep dive into the discographies of our favorite metal bands. I'm your host, Brother Paul, joined as ever by my two brothers and co-hosts, Brother John
What up, my dear brothers?
and Brother Dave.
Hello, hello.
Each season of the show, we are focusing on one band, and season one, Songs of the Damned, we are covering Soilwork. Today, we are discussing their transformative 2002 album, Natural Born Chaos. Join us as we follow the hollow. Okay, so this album was released March 25, 2002. Brother John, why don't you give us a snapshot of the top 40 chart for that week and tell us what you were doing in early 2002?
With pleasure, brother Paul. March 25, 2002, 22-ish years ago. Well, we may remember this number one jam. In the End by Linkin Park was topping the charts at number one. I feel like I listened to a decent amount of Linkin Park back in those days. They were pretty hot. A couple other notable ones that I saw as I perused the charts from that week. Number three, How You Remind Me by Nickelback, a perennial favorite, perhaps? Maybe not. Number 30 was Youth of the Nation by POD. That was one of those sort of crossover Christian bands, also in the sort of rap rock arena that had some mainstream success, at least for a while.
I
And I
feel
want to give it,
like
oh, go ahead.
I feel like there was a string of songs around that time that relied on child gang vocals, and that
Oh, I
was the
forgot
most
about that
popular.
aspect of that. Yeah, you're
I
right.
I remember distinctly one time we were driving, I think it was to the hobby store, and one of the radio stations, it was playing Youth of the Nation, and it was just starting. We're like, well, let's switch over to the other station because we don't really like this song. Go to the next kind of alternative station, and they're playing the middle of Youth of the Nation. And then I was like, God, let's go, to this kind of outlier station that we don't really listen to. Switch to that one, and it is the tail end of Youth of the Nation. And it was like, we just heard the whole song. It
I
was
remember that
wild.
trip. It was awful.
Oh, they were out to get you. I did. So just one more. I wanted to give a special shout out to number 34 on the charts, which is the song 19 2000 by Gorillaz. Back in the day, I didn't listen to Gorillaz a whole lot, but that is Sadie's all-time favorite band, and I've gotten into them quite a bit over the last few years. So Gorillaz, they know what's up.
All right. Well, what were you doing in early 2002?
Well, let's see. I was finishing my freshman year of college. I remember I slept a lot. I was probably depressed and so just falling into deep slumbers or something like that. But other than that, those were the days when I was getting into playing drums in the pop punk band B. Nicholas Bay, named after our good friend Nicholas Bay, who we all wished we could be. So that was pretty fun. We were playing a lot of local shows in the Grand Rapids, Michigan scene. Shout out Skeletones, the all ages venue, but pretty much playing wherever we could, church basements, random open mics, birthday parties. We played on a outdoor track, like by a football field one time with the band Clearly Blind. Shout out to them. Hope you're listening. Um, in those days, let's see, I think, well, 2001, the summer was the first year we went to Cornerstone Music Festival, but again in 2002. So I was seeing a ton of bands that I'd been listening to, stuff like Norma Jean, Zayo, found out about the band Me Without You around that time. And then a couple local Michigan bands, metal bands, Bestiary and Ana Avea would play at Cornerstone, and I would see them around Michigan too. So that was pretty fun. And I was looking back at some old pictures, and right around May of 2002 was, I think, Paul, you maybe mentioned on a prior episode, Scapleton, the Appleton Ska Fest, and
Oh,
definitely
hell
saw
yeah,
Mustard
brother.
Plug right around the end of that school year when I was back in Appleton. So that was fun. Let's see what else. In those days, listening to a lot of metalcore and indie rock, but also a good amount of mellow death and just a smattering of other kind of metal genres. So, I think the first time I heard this album was probably not too long after it came out. Dave, you probably would have got it first because I know that I didn't actually own it for quite a while. And eventually, at some point, years later, I did buy it because I felt a little guilty to not be supporting the band. But, this is one of my all-time faves. It's like, well, I should probably own this, not just use the burned copy that I have from my brother. So I did purchase it at some point. It might honestly still be unopened in shrink because, I bought it, but I already had it on the computer. So what you gonna do? Brother Dave, what were you doing?
Yeah, what was I doing? I was in my senior year of high school. We all lived through 9/11, actually, happened just previous to this album coming out. Um, and I think I was firmly post Metallica at this point in my life. I remember I was listening to a lot of In Flames, Colony and Clayman were big. Opeth, Still Life, and Water Park were big for me right now. Still Little Ska with Catch 22, Keys Be Nights. It's a lot of play. I have distinct memories of listening to that during study hall. Um, what else? Yeah, it was a kind of transitional period for me because it was at a new school that I didn't really know anybody. But and I'm not super social, but I fit in well enough. I was kind of friends with everybody to some extent, but didn't
Dave, I
hang out with them
remember
that much.
you I remember you being somewhat of like a Casanova almost. Like you had a lot of friends and in particular quite a few lady friends, if I remember. I mean, not that you were like dating or anything like that, but just,
I
outgoing. You struck me as being an outgoing social kind of guy, especially with the ladies.
so I'm not gonna say you're wrong because I was friends with lots of women, and it was weird because I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I think I just showed up and I was like non-threatening and friendly and like genuinely interacting with people that were nice. And I didn't think I had any sort of romantic uh aspirations here. And I think they sensed that. So I
Oh,
was
they were
safe.
like sharks.
I was
Smelled that blood in the water.
no, I think I was basically the gay friend without being gay.
You and
Oh,
me both, brother Dave.
I
Um,
mean, I feel
which
like that
is
was kind of a little bit me too, but I always had a crush on every single girl that I came across, like back in the day.
I
So,
mean,
I had aspirations, even though I never acted on them and wouldn't have really been too kosher the way we
yeah,
were
that wouldn't
raised
have
and that sort of
flown
thing.
in our household. I think this may have been the year that we kissed dating goodbye. Um,
Oh, that book. No, that was like 99, wasn't it?
yeah, that was probably earlier, actually. That was
Forgot about
probably
that.
early high school. Um, but yeah, so like I was social, I got along with everybody, still had lots of social anxiety. And I remember one time they all invited me to come to a tailgate party uh before a football game. And so I was like, what's a tailgate party? Because I don't go to parties. And so they had to explain to me like the basics of what it even was. And then I showed up for the tailgate party and left before the game started because I was like, okay, I showed up for the thing. I don't want to watch a football game. I'm gonna bounce now. So that was my social life, which looking back on it, not bad. Um, but I had yet to figure out what the hell I was doing when it came to being social. But was listening to a lot of good metal at this point. Also want to shout out Nevermore. Dreaming Neon Black was seeing some play in my Discman.
Paul's throwing up the horns for that one.
Yep. Ah, it's so good. And their next one was out, but I don't remember having it at this point, even though Dead Heart in a Dead World is an even better album, in my opinion. But so that's kind of where I was last year of high school. It was going okay. Um,
Yeah.
and I see Paul has written some notes about what we jointly got into, but I'm gonna let him take that. What were you up to, Paul?
Well, I was in eighth grade. I was 13, and actually, I was dating a girl. So
Oh,
I
you
was doing
you
that, and
naughty dog.
I
You
know
beat us to it.
I had my
Yeah.
first kiss around that Christmas because Fellowship of the Ring had come out
A
December
very
19th,
romantic movie.
2001, and boy, something about seeing Boromir just shot full of arrows. I recall my first kiss happened at the towards the end of that film, so must have been right around then.
In the
Um,
theater?
yeah, in the theater.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
yeah, you know,
Man, you were ahead of the curve on all of us. Like, I don't, I think my first kiss honestly probably wasn't for like even another year. I was like 20 before I kissed a woman.
yeah. Well, my mom found out,
Don't
and
tell
then
anyone. It would destroy my street cred.
my mom found out, and she gave this girl a copy of I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and then made me read it also.
Did
I
you kiss
foreshadowed
dating
without
goodbye or
even
did
knowing.
you kiss dating in the open goodbye and just
Oh,
keep it hidden from the parents?
I dated kind of off and on all throughout high school, and was also somehow the gay best friend to a lot of a lot of women. So, but beyond that, I mean, yeah, David, you bring up Peace Be Nights by Catch 22. I feel like we maybe got to do an episode on that and then the Streetlight Manifesto version.
I'd 100% do that.
Yeah,
That album still slaps.
it's so good. And then kind of keeping in the ska vein, I remember going to Scapleton, and I think this was the year that I Voted for Kodos was playing there, and I ended up on stage, just like skanking out to their songs, and then flash forward several years when you were in law school, Brother John, and ended up meeting their guitarist, Chris Haloida of I
Yeah,
Voted
shout
for
out
Kodos.
Chris.
Yeah. So I mean, I got really fond memories of Scapleton and Mustard Plug and seeing I Voted for Kodos. Um, this was also the year that Fear Factory broke up for the first time, and that happened in May, and I was despondent. I was just like, this was my band. What do I do now? They broke up. Like, where do I go from here? I remember being really broken up about it. Um, but yes, so there was something that Brother Dave and I did with some of your friends from Fox Valley Lutheran. We went and saw In Flames at the rave in Milwaukee. And that was, oh God, I have the date somewhere. It was like April 21. And they were co-headlining, and I should say we are recording this on election night, and the co-headliner, the main headliner for that night, is a little band called Iced Earth. Um, John
Yep.
Schaefer came out with an American flag, and their intro song was the Star Spangled Banner. Um,
Yeah.
Flash forward roughly 20 years, and look
John
up what
Schaefer
he
was storming the Capitol.
storming the Capitol
Oh boy.
as an oath
And now
keeper.
he is in prison, I think, for it, right?
Yes, in prison. He talked about having feces thrown at him. So when it came out that he was there, all of his bands just dissolved. You know, so
Yep. Everybody left. And I think they're even like politically aligned. Like Matt Barlow left the band to be
to be a
Homeland
cop,
Security or something, or to be a cop. Yeah.
yeah, he went to be a cop in New Jersey because of 9/11.
Yeah. Like he was so feeling patriotic that he's like, I'm gonna actually go serve the country instead of being in a
Yeah,
band.
I mean, and they had that song When the Eagle Cries,
They had the
which
whole patriotic album that they put out,
yeah,
which you remember our parents bought that and kind of tried to use it as a way to, I don't know, connect with us or something.
probably it wouldn't surprise me if Dad had bought their Gettysburg album. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I remember. So I remember In Flames being really really fucking good. And like I had listened a bunch to Tokyo Showdown, so I kind of knew what to expect. I was standing behind some girl who was just whipping me in the face with her hair, and like I could not move for some reason. That really sucked. I remember Iced
You
Earth.
always find yourself in these
Yeah, I'm
concerts where
eight.
you're
I'm
just
in
being
eighth grade. I'm
abused.
13. I'm trapped. I don't know what to do. Yeah, it just doesn't change. Iced Earth played like an hour 40 and then came back for like an hour 20 encore.
Did we
Eh,
even stay for all of Iced Earth?
yes, we did. Unless I saw them a separate time, which maybe did I see them with because with I think this the was this the concert that Jag Panzer and Evergrey were on also?
Jagpanzer definitely.
Jag Panzer definitely. You know
I,
what?
I
I
think Evergrey, maybe.
Okay. So I remember Evergrey came out and like after they played, they did like this bow, all
Yes, I
together.
remember
Okay,
that too. That was
perfect.
the same
I
concert,
maybe
yeah.
saw Iced Earth another time because I was pretty sure I saw them play all of the Gettysburg trilogy, which would not have been out at this time. And yeah. So you know what? We may have left early this time, but God, I got roped into seeing them again. Oh my God.
God damn it.
So
They're they're another one of those Amon Amarth type bands where it just is kind of the same album over and over.
absolutely. I mean, and if you want to go to a concert, it's just a whole bunch of dudes in their 60s and 70s doing air guitar. It was wild. It was just crusty dudes in denim playing air guitar. So, I mean, that was where I was at. Let's move on to the year in metal. Now, coming off of just a banner year in 2001, things are a little bit quieter this year. However, both In Flames and Dark Tranquillity put out albums. In Flames had Reroute to Remain, which kind of foreshadowing the downfall, or the decline, I would say. It heralds their eventual
Yeah, it's
direction.
it's a decent album.
Yeah,
It's not on the level of Colony or Clayman. It's okay, but it does show the trajectory that they're heading in.
yes. However, Dark Tranquillity, Damage Done, which heralds their direction, which is going straight up to the top, baby. That's a great album.
Real good.
Yeah, and then we have Opeth coming out with Deliverance, and then Sentenced, The Cold White Light came out that year also, which was a
Peak.
perennial top five.
Yeah.
That was
Peak
always
sentence.
yeah,
It is top one or two when I lived in the cold, frozen north and was depressed all the time.
yeah. I remember we would always talk about our top five albums, and it was Viva Emptiness. Those two were always up there. We also have a couple of debuts from bands. Bloodbath, kind of the super group, came out with Resurrection Through Carnage. Non-Exist, former singer of Arch Enemy, Johann Leva, comes out with Deus the Scepter, and I'm calling it now. We're gonna talk about that album. We're doing track by track on that one.
It's a
And
good
then
one.
LVT, they didn't come out with an album, but they did form that year. And I know John was kind of into them for a while, and I saw them live,
Oh
and
yeah.
I
Oh,
think
nice. Where'd you see them?
I saw them when I was in Hungary, actually, on the Heidenfest tour. So we'll
Oh,
talk about
nice.
that
Yeah,
in a future
they would be a
episode.
cool one to see. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, that was good. Couple lesser known kind of bands, not quite in the Melodeath scene. Uh, goth band Karin came out with Downhearted, Pain of Salvation, Remedy Lane. That was on repeat for me a lot.
It's a good
Couple
one.
years down the road when I discovered them. Paradise Lost come decided, we're done being a depressed alt rock band. Let's try to be metal again. Come out with Symbol of Life, and this will be germane in a second. Devin Townsend actually does vocals on a couple of the tracks on that album. Um, and listening to it now, I'm like, oh yeah, I hear Devin in the mix. Um, Agalock the Mantle came out.
There's another one that was in the top five for a long
A-
time.
Absolutely. And then this one, I mean, still at least in my top 10, Rapture, Songs for the Withering.
Love it.
It
Listen
God,
to
that
it recently and it still holds up.
still unassailable. And then just kind of generally speaking, this new metal is still kind of on top. I think John said Linkin Park in the end was the number one track, but I think cracks are kind of starting to show. Metalcore and post-hardcore kind of starting to come up with bands like Norma Jean. I think they came out with Bless the Martyr and Kiss the Child this year, and then Under Oath, The Changing of Time. So it's
Oh,
just sort of
those are both huge, huge,
huge.
huge.
Election night, baby.
For sure.
So,
Um,
you got anything to add, John? I know sometimes you.
Paul, I was waiting for you to drop Immortal, Sons of Northern Darkness,
Ooh,
as a black metal aficionado. How did you miss that one? It's right there, staring right at you.
I blew it.
But also Isis, Oceanic, which as far as like post metal or post hardcore, that is one of the top ones in my opinion. Although I probably like Panopticon a little bit better, but those two are both really good. And a special shout out to Kalma. I always like those guys. Their album They Will Return was from 2002. So those are the only ones I had on my list that you did not already touch on.
Nice. All right. Well, let's get into the album itself. And let's see who made the roster this time. And if because I think last time was the first time they had no lineup changes. So let's see what happens. We have Bjorn Speedstrid on vocals, Peter Witchers on guitar, Ola Frenning also on guitar, Ola Flink on bass, Henry Ranta on drums, Carlos del Olma Omberg on keyboards is out, and he has been replaced by Sven Karlsson, who had played on Evergrey's album from the previous year, In Search of Truth, and he was in a mellow death black metal band called Embraced. Apparently, Carlos left, and then they had Sven kind of as a touring guy and said, "Hey, come on full time." And we'll see what that result is shortly. Fourth time is the
Yeah.
charm. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like we were just getting to know Carlos. We finally heard him on almost every song on the last album.
Yeah.
But
Well, we'll
I
we'll
mean,
see how those statements of, you know what, the keyboards are really atmospheric and in the background and they're not there to make waves. So, they
Well,
are back at Studio Fredman, but this time they've decided they need a co-producer. Frederick Nordstrom, they're like, we can't go back to that keep going back to that well all the time. We got to change things up. So they bring in a little man called Devin Townsend. And while Devin had a couple of producing credits, it was mostly just bands related to Strapping Young Lad. So this is kind of his first big production credit. And I read an interview, they brought him on also to just kind of help with Speed's vocals, and help tighten up his English. So there you
I
go.
mean that makes sense. Devin is an incredible vocalist.
Yeah, I know in the future, like people will bring him on just to be like, be my vocal coach. Like I've been a metal vocalist for 20 years, but Devin's the guy. And I
Hmm.
saw Devin live, and it's insane how good he is live.
Yeah. And he can still do it to this day, and he's getting to be a relatively old guy, but he's still got the vocal range and power of a much younger man.
Yeah. All right. Well, this album, it's got 10 standard tracks. There is a bonus edition where they do a Swedish version of Mercury Shadow, which I'm sure we will talk about, but let's get into it. Let's do the track by track. Track number one, Follow the Hollow.
Welcome. Won't you please step aside and follow the hollow?
And Brother Dave, kick us off.
Oh. I mean, this song, what a way to start an album. I feel like they kind of did the same thing on A Predator's Portrait, where they started off with the most chaotic song. Um, And I mean, this one for a band that's pretty much transitioned to doing straight 4/4 most of the time, the verse here is like 6 plus 7 plus 6 plus 10, and you're just kind of not really sure where the beats are going to hit, but it all flows really well, and it's awesome. I love this song. Um, the synths are really present here, kind of throughout the whole thing. Still a bit background, but like way more present than they have been. Um, they keep it interesting by doing a little slow down right before the solos at about like 220. Um, and the other thing that I notice immediately on this album is that they finally nailed the mix. Previously, I always felt like their rhythms, the rhythm guitars were just a little too loud, kind of drowning everything else out. But now I feel like they just hit right where it needs to be. Everything sounds good. This song, I've got nothing bad to say about it. Brother
Brother
John,
John.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, the intro drum roll, it's just a couple seconds, but it's completely awesome and grabs your
oh
attention right
yeah,
out of the
yeah, yeah.
gate. Then the whole song is just a pummeling groove. It doesn't let up, but also laced with melody. 10 out of 10 in my opinion. It should be pointed out that this song, as have several others, encourages the listener to take a look, take a ride, stay by his side are the lyrics here, but they're always talking about riding something. Like he doesn't really say what they're riding at this particular time, so guess it could be wheels of steel, something else.
Could
Would you
be
like me to go through
Wings
the
of
history?
Speed.
we, we've kind of we texted a little bit about this, but there's multiple songs on the prior albums that all talk about riding this or that. I
Oh,
could give a quick rundown if you'd like to hear it.
Yes, please do. And because I know there's
there's
another
more
song.
riding coming
There's
up.
more writing coming, but yeah,
Yeah,
let's
so we're
see where
gonna.
we've come from.
All right. Well, so from the first album, Steel Bass Suicide, the song Steel Bass Suicide, where they declare on wheels of steel will ride. We opine that could be some sort of a penny farthing or old-timey stagecoach. Hard to say what these wheels of steel are. I guess maybe
Likely
a train. I don't know.
it's
That would maybe
possible,
make more
but
sense.
you know that they're going to be wearing those hats that grandpas still wear.
So
Yes. Well,
so
yeah,
we
depends
will
if
also we're gonna have some social media presence and our Instagram, it will feature all of the terrible AI art that we've generated for
so
these. So if you
gonna
want
be
to
the
see Bjorn
shining.
Speed Strid on a penny farthing, check out our Instagram.
Yeah. Oh boy. And then on the Chain Heart Machine, the song Neon Rebels, they talked about riding on the winds at the speed of light. So they're just taking it to the skies at that point. On A Predator's Portrait, the song Shadow Child, they say, I lick the surface of a freedom ride under a hammering light. I scream. I don't know what any of that means, but freedom ride is what we're all on today as we await the election results. And then the song A Predator's Portrait, they say, can't fight what's inside on this blasphemous ride. Here I stand. So he's clearly standing on the ride. I don't know if that's
Mm.
going to get yelled at by the ride operator, maybe for that. And then here they
Mixing in
say,
his
take a
favorite
look.
adjective as well,
That's why.
blaspheming.
Yeah. But now take a look, take a ride. Stay by my side. Don't dare to think. Let's follow the hollow. So that's where we're at to this point. Oh, and one other thing, Paul, you kind of touched on this, as did you, Dave, with the keyboards and the new keyboardist. I had found a interview with someone. I just had it here. Okay, so it was an interview with Peter Witchers right around the time this came out, and he said we basically gave him free hands, and he pretty much did what he wanted to do for this one. His other band, Evergreat, there's a lot more keyboards on that one, but he wanted to have everything with vocals before he did the keyboards so that they wouldn't be messed up together. Because if you do keyboards first and then the vocals, if Bjorn has a certain idea for the vocals and perhaps he does something completely different for keyboards, then they don't blend together. So basically he threw the keyboards on last, but he made it work perfectly on every track. And
Yeah.
seems like he's a little bit more prolific of a keyboardist maybe than the prior guy was.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't have a ton of notes on this one. It's a great opener. It's a great song. I think it's very cohesive. Like it's a pretty straightforward, and it's all good. Everything works. Like they're totally clicking together now. Here on their fourth album. No notes other than this is great. So, let's move on to track number two, As We Speak. And I have in my notes, since at the forefront, poor Carlos. They go from having the keyboards atmospheric, they were talking about, yeah, he's just here to kind of add a little flair, in the background and not make waves. And boy, did they just put him right at the forefront here on this one. As soon as Carlos gets the boot. Um, yeah, there's some chugging guitars on this one. I've always loved the bridge at the 2 minute mark where it's the "Don't despair." And then it goes into the guitar solo, which just fucking rips. Like it's so good. Yeah, I love this song. It's great.
Agreed. 10 out of 10. Again, a perfect song. Oh, I did watch the music video, which I didn't even realize there was one, and you mentioned that. I mean, everyone should look it up, but it seems like a pretty basic first music video for a metal band, like filmed in a abandoned factory, with the band just kind of standing around playing, but then this guy sort of doing some sort of narrative thing, like walking around. I'm not sure what he was up to.
I'll break this down for you. The music video is man on the street enters a warehouse, sees a metal band. They're all wearing the same kind of uniform of like jeans. They're all dressed the same. They're translucent and they play the song. And Bjorn Speedstrid looks like Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins.
That's true. And at the end, there are some weird like spirit ghosts that show up. I didn't get what was going on there.
Out of nowhere, then it's as though all of a sudden, oh, he's glitching and he's becoming translucent, and boom, fade to black.
I wrote a summary of the plot of this music video. And my summary was confused man walks in on ghost band playing in an empty warehouse / hangar. Oh shit, now the guy is a ghost too. And that's basically the story that they tell.
I cannot wait to have AI generate a bunch of art for this.
And then after that summary, I did also write to myself, they're all so young, just little babies.
I don't
really
know.
are.
Speed was probably what, like about 22 or something at the time. I don't know exactly, maybe a little older than that.
It would have been a little older than that, but yeah.
But like right around there, early 20s
24
for sure.
maybe.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to point out they do a cool on As We Speak, they do a cool thing. It's throughout the song, but at 9 seconds and 19 seconds, there's just like this 4 quick drum hits and then a guitar kind of slide was like do, 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 do. I just love it. And they do it a bunch of times in the song. So you could maybe drop a clip of that so people know what I'm trying to say when I sing a guitar
we'll just
part.
Clip that part of you and use it in the future. Yeah. Musically,
but
the song's great. Yeah, it's got lots of little things like that. And then I also just like, they've got a lot of synths and guitars and good interplay between them. Right? Like the synth does its part, then the guitar does its part. They both have like time to shine.
Yeah. And what's the name of our great segment where we talk about all the cool breakdowns, the Bring the Mosh. I think I should call that out here because at right about 1 minute 54 seconds, they go into this cool breakdown part. And then that kind of ends and they go into a rad guitar solo at about 2 minutes, 24 seconds. So it's pretty much just bringing the hits. It's a straight up banger. I think I already said, but 10 out of 10 on this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Track 3, The Flame Out. Brother John, kick us off.
Well, let's see. This is a fast song with really good drum groove that just keeps up the intensity, but it doesn't do the punk beat that you guys both seem to hate. So,
Mhm.
and I didn't really notice that too much at all, maybe on this album. He
I
does
didn't.
a lot more, just kind
I
of mixing it up, but
I
still a
have
lot
that
of
in my
fast stuff.
I have that in my notes for the end is I don't think I haven't heard one of the rat-a-tat-tat punk beats throughout this entire album.
Yeah,
So
if it does show up, it's just like very briefly, just to
Mhm.
make to
So,
kind of punch up a section or something.
yep, it
But
doesn't overstay. It doesn't get annoying.
there's some really fun kind of ride cymbal tapping at different parts of this song, and in general, just keeps up with the double kick and constant fun fills on the other drums. So there's a lot of fun drumming on this one that kind of stood out to me. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, this one was another great song. I feel like the pre-chorus in this one is catchy as hell, with again more good interplay between the instruments that kind of gives everything its own chance to shine and nothing's like overlapping or drowning out other stuff. Um, the solos are great, and what I've noticed at this point in the album is like the solos are focused. They're relatively short, but they avoid that overly noodliness that we got in some of the previous albums. They get in, they're rad, they don't overstay, and then you're left feeling good about the solos, and then like back into a big chorus or a third verse or something. Um,
Yeah, lots of sing
and
along
then
kind of choruses on this
yeah,
whole
the
album, really.
choruses
Just
on
like
the
a lot of catchy
yeah,
stuff.
yep,
this
a lot
is
of good choruses, and then the last thing that stood out to me was actually a drum thing on this song is that like the 3 minute 30 second or something when he's doing the hold on one more second my fatal one like the whole thing is just like a full measure of drum fills, which is awesome. I like when the drums just go wild for an extended period of time.
nice. I mean, for me, another great song. I remember this being really good live. I've seen them 2 or 3 times, but I saw them in Hungary and I was right in the front row. And I remember them playing this song and being like, yeah. So whenever I hear it, I can see what they were doing, on stage. Vividly remember like this, it's just a standout. We got some sneaky synths in this, which not front and center, but they're really working. Um, they I'm sure I will get the technical term wrong, but kind of buried in the mix. It's very subtle. They do some kind of like pick sweeping, kind of hidden back there. I got a couple timestamps at like 1 minute and 3:50. It's like a with the guitar, and it's this subtle thing
Where
that
they
I
do like really fast runs.
yeah, and it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
something I would notice until I've listened to this, album 12, 14 times. Um, it's subtle, but it
Yeah,
adds a
they
lot. And I think that's really great songwriting. To be able to
mhm.
add those little flares that on multiple re-listens, you're like, oh shit, there's more going on in here. So,
Yeah, this is
uh,
a more layered album than we've
yes,
gotten
absolutely.
previously. And knowing how to put those layers in there is an art.
Yeah,
But it does really make things stand out, even if you don't consciously hear it.
yeah. So, I mean, 3 tracks in and they've all been bangers. But let's go on to track number 4, the title track, Natural Born Chaos. Brother Dave, what are your thoughts on this one?
It slaps. I mean, they're 4 out of 4 at this point on this album. And I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff they've done. One thing that I notice here is they're doing some like call and response stuff. And they kind of do that with lyrics and sort of between instruments also, right? Is that they'll have two vocal parts. One will like be forward, and then they'll have something kind of answer that sort of a little further back in the mix. Um, which I think kind of becomes a soil work thing at this point. I think they continue that to the present day.
Absolutely. I
Um,
know they kind of started that a bit on Predator's Portrait, but here it's
mhm.
very pronounced and it's like, yep, this is what we're doing now.
Yep. And then in the solos, there's some nice soil worky harmonization in there. Again, they're both quick and to the point, but they're good solos. And I think that at this point they've landed in the point they're not a Guitar Hero band. They were they were toying around with trying to be that on previous albums, but that's not what they are. Like they're a solid rhythm band, I think, and just catchy choruses. They'll have some decent solo stuff, but that's not what they're here to do. And just knowing what they are, I think lets them write more solid songs.
Yeah.
Your
And
thoughts?
Henry Ronta again with the drums throughout, just driving it good, a
Hmm.
bop. And especially, it really stood out to me the very end part where it does this really cool, just like fast double kick thing to finish it off. That's how you do a solid ending to the song. No fade out necessary on this one.
I don't
10
think
out
they
of
had
10.
any fade outs on this album, did they?
They have one very
I
major
I feel
fade
like
out,
there's at least
Oh,
one,
at the
but
very end, yes.
but I
which,
also oh well, let's get to that. But I wanted
yeah.
to not do a whole thing about the song meanings, but I wanted to call out a funny song meanings comment that I saw from I believe we've mentioned some of this guys before. Turbo Speed from 18 years ago.
Is this
He
is this just Speed Strid's alt account?
it might be it's just dropping
What am
hints
I
about
singing about?
he can't even remember what it was about. He's like, I know I thought was thinking about something when I wrote this, but hell if I know. Here's what it could be. But so the comment was, I don't know why, but I think this song is about lawyers that do anything to get their verdict, even if it's morally incorrect.
John, is this you from
Turbo
20
Speed
years
from
ago?
18 years ago. Yeah, that
Yep.
could be. Could be.
It's the last
Oh,
remnants of your conscience before you became a dirty, dirty lawyer yourself.
Well, yeah.
yeah, I don't have a ton of notes for this one. It's a solid song. I wrote that I love the bridge at 139. I don't really recall this song as much as the others. But I recall it being really good, you know. But yeah, that's all I got. Nothing to add. And then we are getting into we're midway through already. Track number 5, Minefields. And I'm just gonna say, I growing up, I didn't listen to Natural Born Chaos a lot. I was familiar with Follow the Hollow, Black Star Deceiver, as we speak. So I see they have a song called Minefields on my first listen, and I was like, wait a minute. The Prodigy has a song called Minefields. I haven't listened to the Prodigy in a while. Let me throw that on. So I pop over, put on the Prodigy's 1997 classic, The Fat of the Land, and listen to Minefields. And then I was like, oh, this shit slaps. Listen to the rest of the album. And then
Fuck Soilwork.
yeah, and then came back after listening to the last 5 songs off of Fat of the Land. Then I came back to finish the Soilwork Minefields, and I think that's the way they probably intended you to listen to this album. Kind of midway
Yep.
through, take
Take a
a
little
break, go
interlude.
listen to some drum and bass, 90s electro.
This is dangerous. I walk through my fields and watch your head rock.
It's not a bad song,
Between the
but
two versions of Minefields, the Soilwork version and the Prodigy version, which one did you prefer?
I'd actually go Prodigy.
Oh no. Well, you do love that kind of music. Well,
I
I
love my
love
bleep
that
blops
album too.
and I don't know.
I probably am the one who got you into Prodigy because I had all their stuff way back then.
Absolutely, you did. And actually, I recall being in my martial art class, and one of the guys there, he called me Keith Flint, because of how I had my hair, which I'm sure I was, modeling after. But yeah, this one, it's not bad. It doesn't really stand out to me in kind of a negative way. It's there. It's fine.
Well, I thought this one had more exceptional drumming to be found throughout, just peppering in the fun flares and the fills throughout the whole thing. 10 out of 10.
uh, they're all going to be 10 out of 10 for you. I'm predicting it now. I think,
Maybe.
well, I'm gonna be more in the Paul camp on this one. I think this is one of the weaker songs on this album. It's uh, there's not a whole lot that's super memorable about it, but in Soilwork fashion, even the weak songs, they're pretty good when compared to other artists. But this one, especially after four bangers in a row, it really lacks pizzazz in comparison.
Well, they got to let you rest at some point. Otherwise, you'll just be
Exactly.
doing those helicopters with your hair and develop a headache.
I think
Headbanging.
when I think when I saw them, I actually did headbang so hard that I gave myself a mild concussion. I was like, just had a headache and was a bit dizzy for like the next day or two. I think I literally headbanged their entire set.
All right.
So,
Suffering from that CTE to this
Um,
very day.
I'm going to call you
yep.
Jason Newsted from now on. I had no idea you headbanged so hard. Um, okay. Well, let's go on to track number 6, The Bringer. And here it is, baby. Hey, Soil Mates. Brother John, tell us about this.
Oh man, let me bring it back and bring it home. So, I mean, this is all 10 out of 10. Let's just get that out of the way right out of the gate with this one. But this is a great track. And I want to point out in that same interview I was reading from before, Peter Witchers explains that at the beginning he uses an EBow, which Dave, you could maybe
hmm
give a more technical explanation of that. But the song kind of starts with the clean picking guitar, and then there's sort of I don't even know how you describe the sound, but it's got sort of the sustained notes, and that's from the EBow, which just
Yeah,
kind of
that's the Evo.
sustains the note.
Yeah,
But thought that was kind of
basically.
cool.
It's like
Never
a
really knew what
little,
that was.
yeah, it's a little box thing that has like a cleft in it that you stick the right over the string, and then it just vibrates the string constantly instead of hitting it once with the pick and it eventually dies off. You hear Ebo all the time on Opeth stuff. They've got
Yeah, I think he might have
constantly
even
got like
mentioned that that's where he had like kind of found out about it because they recorded the prior album with at the same time that Opeth was in the studio too, so they are buds or whatever.
yep.
But
They're
yeah,
stealing equipment.
Yeah.
Anytime,
Michael
anytime Frederick
Ockerfeld.
left them alone to go do Opeth stuff, they would be sneaking around.
Michael
where's
Ockerfeld
my
gets
Ebo?
home. Where's my Ebo?
But in general, this one is just a straight up bop. Vocals on point. We got the harsh vocals that are pretty refined and understandable while maintaining the brutal edge. Melodically brutal, I'd say. And it
Mhm.
opens, like you already said, with the line, "Hey, soil mates, we're facing the end," which is incredible. And I'm proud to call you both my soil mates. But guitar and drums bring the groove. There's some pretty atmospheric synths going on in this one, and a rad
Mhm.
guitar solo from it's kind of long too, from about 3 minutes 5 seconds to about 3 minutes 52. And I really like the bridge part where the lyrics are like, "Oh, won't you take this thing out of me?" That section has a really good guitar groove to it as well. So again, 10 out of 10. Nothing wrong with this song.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the catchiest choruses they've ever done. Yeah, in a way, it's a very standard Soilwork song. The dueling guitar solo, the catchy choruses, they got the sneaky synths, but it's them at the height of their game. It's a flawless song. The what he says, enough's enough. Whenever I would sing this, I would always just do it as "nuff's enough," like the metal band, "nuff's enough," and so that always makes me laugh because I remember doing that to you, brother Dave. So I was that always made me chuckle. But yeah, this song it's perfect. It's really good.
Yeah, it's absolutely one of their best. You guys, I mean, you hit all the big points that I pointed out. Just also want to specifically call out the synths right around the solo, that the synths start with the solo, start before the solo. They kind of go along with it, and then they finish out the solo, um, which is just another instance of their more prominent synth usage, which is nice and gives a little more variety to everything they're doing. But yeah, this is the template for Soilwork songs, basically.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah, so good. Now we are on to track number 7, Black Star Deceiver, with a little vocal work from our man Devin Townsend. Brother Dave, discuss.
Another absolute banger. Um, there's nothing negative to say about almost anything on this entire album. Um, the main riff is great and it has like alternate endings to it, both of which are fun and kind of get away from the chugginess that we've been doing on a lot of the riffs. Uh, so they do just enough stuff to keep their riffs and their songwriting new and interesting, that this is the point in most albums where I would be getting bored if the band was just doing their thing. But they're keeping it interesting enough that I'm not bored, even though there is a lot of similarity between songs. Um, the they are falling into a couple of cliches. They've got like the big slowdown that they do before most of their solos, but they still make it work. And right after the solo here, they launch right back into vocals, which is different than what they normally do, right? They normally will like do some riffage or something. So, and the part where he's like, I was never in pain, sick or insane. I mean, it slaps so hard. He's finally figured out what he's doing with his vocals and how to write catchy bits, even if I have no idea what the song is about.
Is he
Yeah,
maybe just trying to clarify that these songs are not autobiographical? If he was never in pain, sick, or insane, then anything off the prior album couldn't have been about him.
Yeah,
So
he's
it's
trying to
just his,
distance
his little
himself.
disclaimer.
but one of the songs is about lawyers doing whatever they can to win the case, and here he is saying, "No, no, 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 you can't use my words against me." Um,
It's like that
no,
fucking analyst was the one
yeah.
who was the asshole. Screwed me over in my vehicle accident case.
So,
It's part of
yeah.
my own personal theory from the last album.
Oh, so this is another top tier song. And I guess I didn't know that Devin Townsend was singing on this until, I was diving into the credits for this podcast, and then I was like, oh, now I hear him. Now I can't not hear him, and I love it. Because he's doing the dueling back and forth vocals with Speed, and at one point Devin goes, "Don't try to nail," and he does that Devin Townsend like kind of operatic soar, and then
Yep.
it blends into the keyboards, and it's
Yeah, that part is pretty
amazing.
Yeah.
It is seamless, and it just shows off his range, in a way that doesn't overpower the song. Because
Right.
it's
This is
very kind of,
still a Soilwork song. It's
yeah,
not a Devin Townsend song,
yeah,
but he brings something else into it.
absolutely. And I mean, even on the Paradise Lost album from the same year, he's doing vocals much the same way. His voice has a great complement to it, really enhances, but it's never like, oh, Devin's on this. Like it
Hmm.
just works. But yeah, so his singing is great. I remember the first guitar solo was just so fucking crunchy on this. It's so good. So, brother John, any more thoughts?
Oh man, I think we pretty much said it all. The song rocks, fucking slaps. It's fucking rad. 10 out of 10, obviously. And I would just like to point out at about 2 minutes 24 seconds, there's a synthy part that almost kind of sounds like something out of an old video game. I thought that was pretty fun. But other than that, well, they say Black Star Deceiver kills it all. I think Soilwork killed it all on all of these songs on this album. They fucking slayed it so far. 10 out of 10 for me on every song.
Okay. So, moving on to, and I think we'll do this together, track number 8, Mercury Shadow. Also, the bonus track number 11, Quicksilver, which is the Swedish version of this song. Brother John, kick us off.
All right. Well, I guess I like this song. I didn't write a whole lot of notes about the music itself because I was too focused on the lyrical content. So I think maybe let's open up our segment Lyrical Tactics, Vocal Gymnastics, and dive into it.
Lyrical tactics, vocal gymnastics.
All right, well, I'll start. So, I mean, first of all, we know how to spit or swallow, bring out the Mercury Shadow. What do you guys think? What are they talking about here?
I mean,
Is this
at this
cum
point in their
stuff?
career, it wouldn't be a Soilwork album without cum references.
Well, I guess the real question is this actually a cum reference? I mean, that's what instantly comes to anyone's mind who hears the phrase spit or swallow, but maybe that's
So
not so
I
much a phrase in like the Swedish lexicon, and it's just sort of a translational thing, or maybe it's coming from a different source. Any thoughts on that?
I vaguely remember reading an interview with, I think it was Speed, who was like, "This isn't a cum reference." Um,
Just have to disclaim
Guys,
that as
I'm
well.
gonna
yeah.
clear it up. It's not about
So,
cum.
as much as I like to make fun of them for their funny turns of phrase, I
That's
don't think
just
he's
our
talking
dirty
about.
American minds.
Yeah, I
Dirty
don't think
minds.
he's talking about smoking pole. Um,
Well, I mean, I looked into it a little bit and I couldn't find anything definitive, but there is another phrase about spitting or swallowing, which is an old Hindi saying, which is roughly translated, I guess, to a lizard in the mouth of a snake, neither able to spit it out nor swallow it, which basically symbolizes like a conflict where both options to either be expelled or swallowed are unfavorable. So it could be that this song is sort of highlighting the struggle of being stuck between two bad choices. And I think that maybe kind of fits too, because I was like, what the hell is a Mercury shadow? I've never heard of anything of the sort. But
You
according
find
to,
it on aardvark trails all the time.
well, yeah, I suppose if you're
it's
walking the
native
aardvark
habitat.
trails, there are many Mercury shadows. But the Mercury shadow, also known as the pre and post retrograde shadow, is the period of time when Mercury slows down or speeds up in preparation for or after its retrograde motion. Some say that Mercury's shadow can make people more aware of problems, help people make final choices on things they've been indecisive about, provide a clearer perspective on recent issues, or be a good time to focus on oneself. So, putting that all together, maybe this song is really just about trying to find oneself and working through some shit where neither choice is great, but a choice must be made. Maybe Speed knows his options and wants to bring on the season of change through Mercury's shadow. So he's doing this all through the empowerment of crystals and astrology and song and stuff like that.
I mean, that makes more sense than where I was going with
I've been smoking Paul.
it. Well,
I'm not going to love this, but it's a season of change. Let's dive
So-
in.
I was thinking mercury, are they talking about actual mercury, which was used as medicine in the past, but ended up being toxic and killing children because it was used as like a teething aid? And I was like,
Oh, no.
I was like, maybe he doesn't know all the facts and the figures, and he's saying like, I know how to do the hard thing and swallow the mercury or whatever, take my medicine, but then it would be a bad metaphor because the medicine would kill you. I like
Right,
yours more.
you have to spit it out quick. But although, Quicksilver, that I think is referring to literal
Right.
mercury.
And so that's
And so,
why I was thinking
but at the
maybe
same
along those
time,
lines.
I don't know that we can go through it if we want, or people can just kind of Google the translation or something. But when you compare the lyrics side by side, they're kind of touching on similar themes, I feel like, about like working through shit and stuff, maybe, or just like trying to figure things out. But it's not like a one-to-one translation. A lot like Du Hast by Rammstein. The English version is totally not what the German version said. And that when I was a kid, they didn't have Google Translate, but I was way into that song. Well, Rammstein in general, but Du Hast was like the big one, first one that drew me in. I was like at the bookstore looking at some German to English dictionary, trying to figure out what the heck are they saying? This doesn't even make any sense. And eventually I took German classes in college to try to figure it out. And now I know that the songs are just not the same.
Brother Paul, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, uh, my first thought with the spit or swallow, it's basically, you're gonna kind of spit out and just be like, all right, I'm getting back up, round number two, or you can't keep me down. Basically, you're spitting all the blood out of your mouth to face whatever issue it is, or you're just gonna swallow down your pain and your pride and just kind of, you know, wallow and slink away. It's sort of, yeah, facing some kind of choice. I mean, looking at the lyrics, tomorrow belongs to no one as I repent of the things I've done. Um, it's, he sort of seems like he's at kind of a crossroads, has to make some kind of hard choice, being haunted by his past, and how's he going to deal with that? Really is kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think that this ends up showcasing what we have previously referred to as the vibes-based lyrical writings of this band, where like it really doesn't matter what the spit or swallow metaphor or the Mercury shadow metaphor means, because it, like the Mercury shadow, it feels like it doesn't really fit. The Quicksilver thing, I don't understand how it fits, but in general, the song's about dealing with hardship.
Yeah.
And so,
And the words sound cool when he's singing them.
right. And the words sound cool, and that's what
Kind
you
of punchy.
need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of all I have lyrically. Musically, I have, God damn, what a great intro riff for this song. Um, and I will say, maybe it's just because I haven't heard it as much. I like the Swedish vocals a little more. They make it a little more poppier, a little more fun. Um, and especially on the chorus. So I don't know. But also I just hadn't heard it nearly as much. And I'm like, oh, this adds a new little element. I love when bands sing in their native language, and I kind of wish they would do that more. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's
a
nice.
fun bonus track to have on here.
Yeah, it is a fun bonus track. That's one of those bonus tracks where I don't hate it. It's not like
it
a
adds
live version.
something.
Yeah, yeah, you get something more out of it.
Little something to ponder.
Yeah.
Also, I agree with everything you said, Paul. This song slaps 10 out of 10. I don't know if I had mentioned that before, but
No, it was
make no
implied.
mistake. The
It was
implied 10 out of 10.
implied
Let's
and assumed, and
It is now
now
explicit.
yes.
Hmm.
Any final thoughts on this one? All
I've got
right.
none.
So now we're already at track number 9. No More Angels. Brother Dave, talk to us.
This is one of the songs where the drums stood out to me more than what they were doing on the guitars. Um, Starts with a sweet drum fill intro, and then for the verses, it's doing a cool like triplet or gallop kind of thing in the background with the kicks, which gives it a lot of zest that I really like. Um, Chorus on this one, I think not their strongest, kind of a little bit forgettable. Um, but it does have a fun shift to acoustics. Again, just a little thing that they're throwing in that's different from all the stuff they've done before. Um, and kind of doesn't overstay, but at the same time, I think wrapping it all together, this song is kind of like Mindfields in that it's the weakest song on this half of the album. Not bad, just not as good as all the others.
I agree with you, but I think I'm probably more negative. I think this one misses the mark for me. I do not like his vocals. The first solo, I think I read that it was by Olaf Frenning. I like that. It's good. I think that's kind of the little acoustic bit, then a little bit of a solo. And then our good friend Matthias Eklund is back with his
He
I
is
don't
an
know.
acquired taste
I
that I
don't know
don't
what
think.
sex toy he's using to make this solo wankery, but yeah,
There are a lot of notes that kind of just all turn into a blur
he button
on that thing.
mashes the guitar and is like, "Send me the check," and then is out the door. He's getting paid by a number of notes he hits. I I don't like this one. There's a couple good moments, but by and large, I just don't like it. So,
Hmm.
Brother
Funny.
John.
I did like it, but I didn't have a lot of comments.
Oh, I'm shocked.
I just made note that there's a really, and I didn't put the timestamp on, but you'll listen to the whole thing. You'll find it. There's a really fast, almost solo-y synth part. So I just noticed that they again are really upping the ante with the new keyboardist in a way they never did previously. And I found another fun comment again from songmeanings.com, again from our friend Turbo Speed from 19 years ago. So a year prior to him leaving the comment on the other song. But on this one, he says, I have a feeling that Speed Strid doesn't like angels very much. I
Compelling and
get that sense too.
insightful.
10 out of 10.
Not surprised. And now here we are. God, we have reached the end of this ride with the 10th
Uh,
track.
we're facing the end.
Song of the Damned. Brother John, tell us all about Song of the Damned.
It's a fucking bop. I mean, we named our first season of the pod after it, Songs of the Damned. But yeah, I mean, I have always loved this song quite a lot. And another one featuring some vocals from our friend Devin Townsend. And again, with the heavy synth grooves. So, I mean, it's kind of got all the features of the album coming together to close it out. The growling verses are awesome, and then the almost mournful, clean vocals on the chorus, powerful stuff. But I think, Paul, you were referring to this. It does fade out at the end in classic form. Still amazing through and through. 11 out of 10.
I'd I'd agree with that. So I wrote, I think the fade out works, and it works thematically because the Song of the Damned never
Oh,
ends.
never
Never
ends. So
ends.
don't pretend.
Right,
So
that's the
I think
song
it's
of the
one of those
damned. It's like the stalker from the average stalker. It's still out there.
Yeah, wearing the grandpa hat. Um, this is yeah. So they got Devin on vocals on this one as well. The lyrics were co-written again by Jens Broman, who would eventually be in Dark Ain for a couple of years, but right now he's just like Speed's buddy, hanging out, helping write lyrics. Uh, the intro riff is just fucking iconic. It's so good. And we do get the fun Fast and Furious riding with serpent speed,
Oh,
which
riding with serpents now.
yeah,
Yep.
no, I check the artwork on the social for this one because it's insanity what computers will create for you. No, this song is it's so good. Yeah. And just a great way to end the album. Even though it does do the kind of unresolved fade out, it works. So, Brother Dave, take us home with this.
Yeah, the unresolved fade out absolutely works on this song. Typically, I'm a fan of albums that go out with a bang, like to really ramp it up on the last song. And this song does the opposite. It kind of takes everything back, takes it down a little bit, I think. But it super works. And I specifically want to call out the part where he's screaming, "Why are we trusting all those cynical souls?" Because it just slaps so hard. Yeah, the chorus is great with the song of the dam never ends, and it's a great closer. I think a lot of bands neglect the whole album arc and put like a real dud at the end. This is not a dud. It's so good.
I'm just gonna say I see what you're saying about wanting to go out with a big, ripping song that just bangs. I like when it gets kind of down tempo. And I specifically am thinking of Dark Tranquillity's Character album. It ends with the song My Negation, which as I recall, is just like a real gloomy
Mm-hmm.
kind of mid-tempo sad song. And I'm like, hell yeah. But then maybe, I'm still in the north. I'm still terribly depressed all the time.
you're
So
still
that's
just a
that's what
sad
does it
boy.
for me.
But is this even really down tempo? It's still pretty fast. Like the part,
It's
Dave,
still
that you were
pretty
just
fast, but
you were just calling out where it's like bleeding, aching, bleeding with hearts of immortal so cold.
yeah,
Got the
it's
really
not.
fast double kick going.
Yeah, it's not a slow song by any means, but compared to where we started from with like Follow the Hollow,
Yeah.
um,
It has a
and
different feel.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it definitely has a different feel,
Yeah.
but I think it's still pretty fast.
Yeah.
A fucking bop, like I said.
Right.
yeah, maybe
12
down
out of
tempo
10.
is the wrong word. Yeah,
Yes.
12 out of 10. I'd give it a 12 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's a great
Nice.
song, and it is a
So-
great closer.
I mean, that's the end of this album. So we are going to kick it over to Brother John, to our resident rankings expert, to explain our patented 6-tier ranking system. Brother John.
All right. Well, welcome, soil mates, to the final segment that we call Bop or Flop, where we decide, does the album slap or is it crap? We have honed and we have continued to hone our patented 6-tier ranking system, going from 6 all the way down to 1. We've got the bops, a perfect 6, unassailable. This is metal incarnate. A 5, like to stand on that thing. An album we could easily listen to on repeat. A 4, or that's doable, is a very solid album, worth listening to. Or there's the flops. A 3, it lacks zazz. Nothing special, somewhat forgettable. A 2 is named that because it's a number 2. It's crap, and you definitely shouldn't spend any money on it. Or a 1, which belongs in a garbage can. This album is a disappointment to its father and the listener. Would you like me to give my final thoughts, or should I save them for last and let you guys go first this time?
Well, let's do you.
Okay. Fair enough. Well,
There's a
I
lot of
kind of gave
mystery in
my
what you're going to give it.
I
Yeah.
I gave
Well,
my
what could it
track by
be?
track ranking. Well, it will be no surprise to anybody that I'm going to rate this one a 6. This has got to be my all-time favorite album of theirs. I mean, I suppose as I listen to the future ones, maybe I'll be convinced otherwise, but this is just like completely solid, start to finish. You know what? I'm going to give this a 6.66. It's just that good. I rated A Predator's Portrait a 6, which
You
I
might
stand by that. But
you might
between the
call
two,
this
this
one
one,
diabolical.
oh, this, yes, it is. This is diabolical indeed. Um, yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this album. One of my top 5 albums, I think, of all time, of any album ever. I love it.
Yeah.
6.66 out of 6. The end.
Yeah, it's so good. I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a perfect 6 also. It is a it is unassailable. It's just good from start to finish. Even the two songs that I'm not super huge on are good songs, and everything else is a banger or above. I like the mix. They finally nailed it in. I like that
Mhm.
they've lyrically switched to more relatable topics. So, I'd rather someone talks about personal struggles than about serial killers. Maybe it's just me, but if there's something relatable there, that adds to it. Even if I don't know what they're talking about. Um, Vocals are just a little better. He already had them pretty much dialed in before, but they're just that extra bit better. Um, and they've nailed their their style and their songwriting procedures. Everything's working together, firing on all cylinders, as they say. Oh yeah, perfect 6.
I feel like I might be bullied for
Oh,
what I'm about to do. I would rate this like a 5 or 5.5. It's close. It's a banger for sure. My holdup is there are, some songs that really I just don't like. Also, for me, I don't think I have the same history with this album that you two do. Like I didn't listen to this one, back in the early 2000s. Preview for next week, Figure Number 5. That was my album. That was the one that I listened to constantly and that I associate with Soilwork. Yeah, a couple of the songs on here, I was familiar with and really liked. This is a great album. I can understand why you're rating it 6s. I want to. I'm gonna hold firm and give this a 5.5. They've really come into their own on this one, and they put out a solid album. Kind of all the elements are there now. They laid them down in Predator's Portrait, and here it's all just refined. And yeah, it's all clicked and it's all there. Um, Quick question: were there any pinch harmonics on this album?
none that stood out to me.
None that stood out to me either. That was something I noticed. There's no pinch harmonics. And I'd said earlier, there's none of the rat-a-tat-tat drumming. So, they threw out both things, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna stick by 5.5. I will be giving out some 6s, this season, but this one, it's
I'll
so
believe it when I
close.
see it.
Yeah. Um,
You're a
no,
brutal
there's
critic.
this one's so good, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
I mean, 5.5 is still
High praise.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Luckily, I rated it 6.66. So when you average them out, it's still higher than a 6.
that is very
Right.
true.
The average is 6.1. I just did it.
Nice.
Perfect.
Oh man, we've entered beast mode.
Yeah. No,
So,
this
Natural Born
is
Chaos, worth your time.
Oh
absolutely.
yeah.
Um, okay. Well, soil mates, that's all for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode where we will discuss Soilwork's ferocious album, Figure Number 5. Until then, stay metal, my brothers.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.